My God, Indiana, you freaking did it! You did it! Oh my gosh, my mind is blown. Y'all, the state and local Democrats in Indiana have been going in this week. They have driven Roderick Bray absolutely insane, and this is the result. No gerrymandering, no redistricting in Indiana. We're done. We are done. No was the answer. Oh, yes.
Good news out of Indiana, where the Senate has rejected the Republican-drawn congressional map in a major rebuke of Trump. This was after the House of Indiana did pass the legislation. The Senate has rejected it, with Republicans rejecting it well. Really good sign for the Democrats, as they were trying to gerrymander Indiana, and this comes after Texas did the same thing, but where Indiana is rejecting it. So it looks like the Republicans are facing a major backlash in many states. This is a big deal, and hopefully Democrats will not ruin it, because as you know, Democrats generally tend to shoot themselves in the foot because people like Chuck Schumer are cowards. So we'll see if we get anything good out of this, but I'm really happy to see that Indiana is not going the way of Texas. California did vote, but they did a referendum where everyone in the state got to vote and decide that they would make California 100% Democratic.
Huge news as the Indiana State Senate rejected Trump's pleas to redraw the congressional maps in the state, voting 31-19, with 21 Republicans joining 10 Democrats to vote no on redistricting in the state there. So their potential pickup of 2 more red seats is done. It's likely not happening. They're not going to redraw the maps. So guys, this is huge news. Republicans are rejecting Trump. Even with all the immense pressure he put on them, they are drawing the line and saying no. This is huge, amazing news. And in Missouri earlier this week, voters got enough signatures to try and reject the redistricting there that was going to pick up potentially 1 red seat. So that's moving along. So guys, huge news for democracy today. Great news for Democrats. Very bad news for Trump and his Republican crony friends. So guys, make sure to spread the word about this. Let everyone know. Comment, like, share, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here very soon for the 411.
Some huge news in with massive implications for the 2026 midterms. Despite all of Donald Trump's threats, the Indiana State Senate has just rejected the Trump-backed 9-0 gerrymandered maps. Instead, they are leaving in place the current maps, which are 7 Republican seats and 2 Democratic seats. And the crazy part, this was not even close at all. As reporter Nikki Kelly notes, the bill was soundly defeated by a vote of 31-19. As you probably know, Trump and his allies really acted like the mob here in this pressure campaign against Indiana Republicans. We saw bomb threats at Republican lawmakers' homes in Indiana. We saw death threats against these lawmakers. We saw threats like this from Donald Trump, which Heritage Action was bragging about, saying that if the Indiana State Senate failed to pass the map, Donald Trump would remove all federal funding from the state. That means roads would not be paved, guards bases would close, major projects would stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote will be to blame. These are the kinds of things that Republicans were saying to the Indiana Republicans. Donald Trump Jr. wrote this today, saying, if Indiana Republicans side with these never-Trumpers to do the dirty work of Democrats, I will be spending a lot of time in Indiana next year campaigning against every single one of them. P.S. These rhino consultants sabotaging MAGA need to be rooted out of the GOP. J.D. Vance flew to Indiana multiple times to meet with us Republicans to try to convince them to vote the opposite way. He said here today, Rod Bray, the Senate leader in Indiana, has consistently told us he would not fight redistricting while simultaneously whipping his members against it. The level of dishonesty cannot be rewarded, and the Indiana GOP needs to choose a side. So despite all of those threats, Indiana Republicans did the right thing. They said, F you, Trump, we want nothing to do with you. You are incredibly unpopular. We will not be bowing down to your demands, no matter how much you threaten us. And I think they're looking at all these other states also, like in Texas and like in Georgia. We're seeing all these gerrymanders are actually starting to backfire on Republicans because they're basing them on the 2024 elections, while the electorate has shifted dramatically since then. And so like in Georgia, for example, they gerrymandered a seat. A Democrat flipped the seat that they gerrymandered the other day. So it looks like these Republicans are now being cautious, and they also know that the Democrats are not messing around, as we've seen with Governor Gavin Newsom out here in California with Prop 50. So that's the latest. This is massive, massive news. Make sure to spread the word, Follow our account and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for more.
We have some breaking news. Indiana just broke with Trump in a very public way. The state Senate voted against a new Republican-drawn congressional map that Trump supported. This map was designed to give Republicans an even stronger advantage in next year's midterm election. But Republican lawmakers in Indiana said no. They rejected the plan, and that is rare because the GOP is in control. This vote shows a real split inside the Republican Party. State leaders are pushing back on Trump's attempt to reshape election maps across the country. And it may change how many seats the party can win in 2026. The next step is unclear, but this is a direct blow to Trump's strategy. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. My name is Jared Zisser. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Substack, and YouTube for breaking news, updates, the full story, and comments.
We have breaking news right now, a massive loss for Donald Trump. Indiana Republicans have stood up to the President of the United States and have rejected his push to redistrict and gerrymander Indiana. Despite the threats, despite the attacks, Indiana Republicans stood firm, stood strong, and said no to the President of the United States in a stunning loss for Donald Trump, one that's going to have major reverberating effects for months, years to come, because it'll fundamentally impact whether or not House Republicans can retake the majority when it comes up in 2026. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Support my work today by subscribing to my Substack by clicking the link below. Today, Indiana Republicans in the Indiana Senate said no. We're not going to cave to Donald Trump. We're not going to say that what Donald Trump is doing in D.C. is okay. We're not going to just gerrymander for political reasons. We're not going to make this happen. And they rejected it, full stop. Now, today, Donald Trump and Republicans have put immense pressure on Indiana Senate Republicans. They desperately worked to make today's vote go their way. In advance of the vote, Donald Trump put this out. I love the state of Indiana and have won it, including primaries, 6 times, all by massive majorities. Importantly, it now has a chance to make a difference in Washington, D.C. in regards to the number of House seats we have that are necessary to hold the majority against the radical left Democrats. Every other state has done redistricting willingly, openly, and easily. There was never a question in their mind that contributing to a win in the midterms for the Republicans was a great thing to do for our party and for America itself. In all fairness, the Democrats have been doing redistricting for years and continue to do so. Unfortunately, Indiana Senate Leader Rod Bray enjoys being the only person in the United States of America who is against Republicans picking up seats. In Indiana's case, 2 of them. He is putting every ounce of his limited strength into asking his soon-to-be very vulnerable friends to vote with him. By doing so, he is putting the majority in the House of Representatives, Washington, D.C. at risk, and at the same time, putting anybody in Indiana who votes against this redistricting likewise at risk. The people of Indiana don't want the party of sleepy Joe Biden, Kamala, Ilhan Omar, or the rest to succeed in Washington. Bray does not care. He's either a bad guy or a very stupid one. In any event, he and a couple of his friends will partner with the radical left Democrats. They found some Republican suckers, and they couldn't be happier that they did. Guys like failed Senate candidate Mitch Daniels, who I opposed in his race against Senator Jim Banks, and Cam Savage, whoever that is, are fighting against the Republican Party all the way. Bray and his friends are the favorite Republicans of Hakeem Jeffries, crazy Nancy Pelosi, and crying Chuck Schumer. Anybody that votes against redistricting and the success of the Republican Party in D.C. will be, I am sure, met with a MAGA primary in the spring. If Republicans will not do what is necessary to save our country, they will eventually lose everything to the Democrats. Rod Bray and his friends won't be in politics for long, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that they will not hurt the Republican Party and our country again. One of my favorite states, Indiana, will be the only state in the union to turn the Republican Party down. He threatened them with primaries. He threatened them with attacks. They voted against him anyway. And it wasn't just him. Heritage Foundation made clear that President Trump has made it clear if Indiana fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the states. Roads will not be paved. Guard bases will close. Major projects will stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote will be to blame. Despite that, they said no. They said, no, we're not going to support this effort. We're not going to support this effort at all. Donald Trump Jr. said, if Indiana Republicans side with Never Trumpers, do the dirty work of Democrats, I'll be spending a lot of time in Indiana next year campaigning against every single one of them.
Donald Trump is exposing the U.S. Constitution because all previous presidents acted in good faith, and if they wanted to impose their will in this country, they could. And Donald Trump is showing
I'm going back to Indiana. Indiana, here I come. Look, the man in the White House said he has made it clear to Indiana leaders, the governor, the senators, and the reps from there, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map that he demands they pass, it's a gerrymandering rap to get more Republican seats because he's about to lose his majority in the House. All federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved, guard bases will close, major projects will stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote would be to blame. How about that? Is that a strong arm tactic? Other people are calling that the mob type tactics. But imagine you have a president, in theory, with three co-equal branches of government, and it's Congress that has the purse. But that president says, you don't do what I tell you to the state, I'm not going to send federal money to you. Now, this is the problem with people getting in government and believing and thinking that that money is their personal money. He believes, like Elon before him believed it, they all believe that that money is theirs. It's their personal bank account and they can issue it as they want. But that's not how government works. However, because Republicans in the Senate and in the Congress are complicit, they will abide by him. Now, these words are coming from the people who are supporting him because they know they're all about to get investigated, articles of impeachment drawn up, charges, and all these kind of things. So they are desperately trying to hold on to their majority headed into 2026. And you know what? If you're in Indiana, he won your state 3 times in a row. 3 times. 3 times, 16, 20, and 24. And look how he did. 58, almost 59% of the vote. Only a couple little places went Democrat. Yeah, and there's your reps. Jim Banks, right? Jim Banks. There's your governor. Mike Braun, right him. Because you guys are under the knee and foot of the sleeping Don, and he is putting y'all in y'all place, telling you what to do. And I just want to hear all those people on the right go off about states' rights. Y'all been living on states' rights for 200 years, and this man stripped all your states' rights away. Isn't that interesting?
Donald Trump announces a $12 billion farmer bailout, that's billion with a B, to help them because of the tariffs that he inflicted on the farmers that caused the Chinese and others not to buy their crops. What? Donald Trump is now having to try to buy these farmers' votes. Donald Trump announces a $12 billion bailout for farmers. What? Yes, a $12 billion bailout for farmers. Donald, why do you need to do this $12 billion bailout for the farmers? What's caused the farmers to have a problem? Oh, Donald, it was your tariffs. Donald Trump's tariffs on foreign countries have caused China and others not to buy, for the last year, farmers' products here in the United States. In particular, soybeans, corn, etc. They're not buying from the United States. So Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom on placing these tariffs on foreign countries, caused them not to buy from our American farmers. Now Donald Trump is using more taxpayer money to bail out the farmers only partially, because they really need like 30 to 40 billion to fully make up what they've lost, to try to make sure in 2026 they vote the Republican way. even though it's the Republicans and Donald Trump that's cost them their livelihood, cost them their export market, and caused all of this problem, and it's only costing the taxpayers money more. Do you really think Donald Trump is a good businessman? Really? How many bankruptcies? I think 6. Ran casinos in the ground and does this to our farmers, and this is not the first time. He did it under his first administration. Had to do billions of dollars of bailout for the farmers in. Same kind of thing. Love you from my farmers, my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and taxpayers. Is this the way we should be spending our money, not to mention giving all the tax breaks to the rich? What do you think? I don't think so.
I watched Caroline Leavitt's press conference today, so you don't have to, and here's my overview. It was all crazy, but probably the craziest thing she said, and it was a Freudian slip, and boy do I love their Freudian slips because they really reveal a lot. She said that Hamas was a technocratic government. The word she was looking for is theocratic, but she is living in a technocratic government, so she used the word technocratic. The whole thing was just over 30 minutes. She mentioned Biden 11 times and Obama twice, and of those Biden 11 mentions, 9 of them happened in just the first 5 minutes during her prepared speech. I'm just going to read you my summary of her prepared statement as I wrote it in my notes. Everything is cheap. Everyone knows it. We are the best ever. Everything bad was Biden's fault. And then she also says that in 7 months, 0 illegal immigrants have been released by Border Patrol into our country, which is totally different than what Donald Trump says, which is that there have been 0 illegal border crossings in 7 months, which again is a statistical impossibility. Every one of these press conferences now, she introduces a new media chair, which is just some blathering right-wing idiot who's unable to form a question or a statement in any proper way. This one, after a long-winded nothing saying, just says that the legacy media is lying about affordability, so what is Trump going to do to stop them from lying? And she says, I just set the record straight with facts. Let me again refer you to her facts in my summary of her prepared statement. Everything is cheap. Everybody knows it. We are the best ever. Everything bad was Biden's fault. She at one point will claim that Trump knows better than any politician in the city of DC what it's like to be poor, as he has increased his net wealth by billions by abusing the powers of the presidency. She says that Democrats are the greatest con artists in all of history and that literally every economic measurement shows that the economy is doing fantastic. She will later again say that literally every single economic metric shows that we are doing amazing. She gets asked a question, are we attacking Venezuela for drugs or oil? And her answer is yes. And she says that we took that oil cruiser because we know for a fact that oil was going to go to narco terrorists. So basically all is good. But yes, we're going to be taking that oil because we did seize it. He doesn't even make this claim, but she makes the claim that he has solved 9 conflicts now, which to be fair, she's only off by 9. She also says that he's been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize over 100 times this year. I guess she means just random individuals like Joe Schmo from Texas nominating. So if you're still here with me, I'm going to ask you to do something in my comments. Just put a comment. I nominate Chris for the Nobel Peace Prize, and let's see if we can get at least 100 of them, and then I can claim that I've been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize over 100 times as well. The next question, what are you going to do about the healthcare premiums going up because Republicans refused to vote on this or even acknowledge it during the government shutdown, which was the one thing that the Democrats who should have continued the shutdown were holding power for, was to get you to vote on extending these subsidies. And she says, all of this is the Democrats' fault. They set up Obamacare, and without Obamacare, we wouldn't have any of these issues. As for a plan, she says, you'll be hearing from us soon because Republicans are coming up with a bunch of smart and creative ideas. Doesn't explain what any of them are. She says they will not be continuing talks with Ukraine and Russia until they're actively ready to make a deal, which means that we are not involved in the peace process. So when they later, if this war does end during his presidency, claim that the war was ended by Donald Trump, you can refer back to this statement here where she says that we're not talking to them until they're ready to make a deal. Also, do you remember that he said that this would be over on day 1? Also, he said that it would be over before he even got into office. Also, he said it would be over within 1 day of him being elected for the office. We're coming up on a year. Trump has said multiple times very cryptically that he has already picked someone for the Fed. He's just not going to tell you who it is yet. She says that they're going to have interviews with people to try and decide who they're going to pick for the Fed this week. So, I mean, at least they're being transparent about all of this. She's asked, why are we giving China our best NVIDIA chips? And she goes, stop, we're only giving them some, and we're totally going to check before we give them any. She gets asked on the president's thoughts on Jasmine Crockett running for Senate, and she goes, he's been pretty clear on his thoughts. He believes that she's wholly unqualified for the position that she is running for, even though that would be a congressperson running for a senator's seat, when he was a person with no political experience who ran for president, which would, be hypocritical if any of these people cared. She says the judge on the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case is a political activist, but that they're going to keep pursuing this, spending your money to do it, because he's a proven human trafficker and gang member, and she claims that they have proof of both of those things, which she of course fails to provide. She will at one point say, and this is because she knows no MAGA watches this stuff, they are willfully uninformed on all of this information. She says that with tariffs, you will be paying more for things, but you're buying them American, so you're helping Americans, so either way, it's a good thing. So only buy your child one doll for Christmas, but also make sure it's American made. This one is just odd because I was so easily able to fact check it using the source she provided. She actually provided a source, so I checked it because she provided it for once. She said that you can go on Gas Buddy and you can see that in 22 states, gas is below $2.75 per gallon. Now, I first checked on AAA because they also track national gas prices, and I was like, oh, she's so close. It's 21 states that are under. Perhaps Gas Buddy has slightly different data, and so they have 22 states under 275, and she's not lying about this thing. I went on Gas Buddy and it's 21 states. It's the exact same thing because they're probably using the exact same data. Why lie? Why not just say 21 states? What is the point of adding one additional fake state to your fake count of how many states have? Just tell the truth. 21 is good. 21 is a good number of states to be below 275. That, if the Trump presidency had actually done anything to lower gas prices, could be something that they could point to. But instead, she chose to lie and just add an extra state for no reason. And yes, I mean that. She chose to, because this is the most easily fact-checkable thing that she said in this entire thing, other than he ended 9 wars. She at one point will make an entire claim that nobody in the media reported on inflation under Biden's term. Like they just ignored it and said that it didn't happen, even though that was literally all that the media was talking about the entire time. Here's a direct quote. Everything I'm telling you is truth backed by real factual data. So she doesn't know what real or factual means. And you just don't want to report on it because you want to spread untrue narratives about the president. Just she says so. And then immediately after that, a reporter starts asking a question and she goes, I'm not going to take your question. Very transparent. She gets asked by a reporter, are you going to do anything about the fact that China is taking military action against Japan's island of Okinawa? I have not researched anything about this. Her answer, we're very good friends with Japan and we're very good friends with China. Literally, that was her answer. She gets asked, what's up with the bandages all over Trump's hand? And she gives the same hilarious answer. She says he's shaking so many hands. That's why there's bruising and bandages on them, because he shakes so many hands that's why there's bruising. This is a man who is a self-professed germaphobe who literally said that he was so happy when COVID came around because he thought that would be the end of shaking hands forever. She's claiming that germaphobe is shaking so many hands that it's bruising his incredibly strong alpha male flesh. Crazy. Also, she makes it very clear that the oil rigger that they did illegally seize didn't have any drugs or anything on it, but the oil that was in it was going to go to fuel narco-terrorists, so same difference. We might as well have just blown it up. A reporter asked her 2 questions. The first one is, why does Trump keep saying that the money to bail out farmers again is coming from tariffs when Brooke Rollins, who's actually giving out the money, saying that it's not? The second question is it a good look for a billionaire to tell your average everyday American to only buy 1 or 2 toys for their children when they're a billionaire? She decides to skip the first question, and for the second question goes, don't you think the people in Pennsylvania who he was talking to know that he's a billionaire? That's why they elected him. He's a good businessman. She does not mention his 6 bankruptcies as part of that. At this point, she gets asked the question about Palestine, at which point she will say that Hamas is a technocratic government. But the question is, what are you going to do to move on to the second stage of this Palestine peace agreement? And she goes, it's just amazing that in 10 months, we've been able to solve this issue that's been going on for 70 years, which completely negates the fact that Trump for 4 years was president before and did not do anything to solve the conflict that had been going on for 70 years. Also ignores the fact that Israel continues to bomb Palestinian citizens and commit an open genocide for which they have been condemned by the ICC as having committed an open genocide genocide. She doesn't care about that. She says that there is peace, and again, we've solved 9 conflicts. She gets asked, is it concerning that Putin and Maduro are in agreement and aligned on all of these issues? And she says, nah, not a problem. A reporter says, hey, the things you're saying about inflation aren't actually true. Her answer to that, yes, they are. I have the numbers right in front of me. Next question. She gets asked again, hey, what is the plan that Republicans are supporting to deal with the imminent healthcare crisis where people's insurance premiums are going to triple or quadruple? And she says that Democrats caused the whole thing and Chuck Schumer's only voting on it to just like play show. He doesn't actually want anything to happen. And they should just be agreeing with us on lower drug prices or good enough answer. She gets asked about a prolonged war with Venezuela, and she says it won't be a prolonged war, which just reminds me of every general throughout all of history saying we'll be home for Christmas. And finally, one of the most disturbing things she says is that what Trump says on Truth Social is pretty much indicative of what he's saying behind closed doors. I'm just going to remind you that what he says on Truth Social is things like Tim Walz is retarded, and that should bother you because it's the president who said